Hi guys, it's Mrs. Grimes here to read Alvin and the Chipmunks. Alvin and the Big Art Show. The boys were getting ready for the school art show. Parents and students came, even teachers and the principal came. It was a big deal. Simon was excited. He was reading a book on Pablo Picasso. He was making a self-portrait. Theodore was excited too. He was very proud of his project. "I'd rather be skateboarding," Alvin said, "but since I'm here, let's make some art." He was using the clay wheel. Really, he was making a huge mess. Theodore worked very hard. He hoped to win the blue ribbon for the best sculpture. "Do I have a chance?" he asked. "A chance for what?" asked Alvin, flicking clay all over. Theodore sighed at his brother. Simon rolled his eyes. Maybe Alvin should have been skateboarding. He was covered in clay. Before long, art class was over. Theodore was sad to leave, but was sure his project would be the art show's first and only drum set made of paper. Theodore thought about his drum set all day. He even wanted to skip lunch. "But it's Taco Tuesday," Alvin said. On second thought, "My project can wait," Theodore said. The next day in class, Theodore's teacher praised her star student. "Keep exploring your artistic self," Mrs. Harrigus said. Theodore smiled. Alvin wasn't happy with his project. He wouldn't win a ribbon. He was bored. He was bored. He wanted something fun to do. "Come on, Alvin, I'll help you," Theodore said. But Alvin wasn't interested in making art. He wanted to make some music. Fine, Alvin began to sing. First, Alvin began to sing. Then he began to dance. He shook to the left, and then he shook to the right. He played air guitar. Alvin danced around, knocking over paints and brushes. He bumped right into Theodore's art project. "Alvin!" Theodore yelled. A cymbal that had crashed into the bass drum and made a huge hole. "I'm so sorry," Alvin said. But Theodore didn't want to hear it. He knew his brother was bored. He knew his brother didn't care about the art show. "My project is ruined," Theodore cried. Theodore was so upset he ran out of the room. Just then the bell rang. School was over for the day. Theodore ran all the way home. Simon looked at Alvin. "What are you going to do?" he asked. "You broke Theodore's project." Alvin knew there was only one thing to do. He had to fix it. The rest of the class left. Some headed to after-school clubs, some headed to soccer practice. Alvin wasn't going anywhere. He had work to do. Oops. "Please, Miss Harris," Alvin begged. He had to learn how to make a paper drums. He rolled up his sleeves. Miss Harris brought strips of newspaper, buckets of glue, and cups of water. Alvin got a crash course in paper sculpture. He set to work and did his best. Simon was impressed. His brother was focused and determined. Simon decided to help too. When they got home, they were tired and they were hungry. "Hi, boys, let's eat," Dave said. Alvin was surprised. Theodore hadn't told Dave. But Theodore ignored Alvin all night. He did his homework in silence. He brushed his teeth in silence. "Good night, Theodore," said Alvin. Theodore didn't say anything back. "Are you ready for the show tonight?" Dave asked the next morning. "I can't wait to see your drum set." Theodore smiled sadly. He headed to the bus stop alone. Theodore avoided the art room until it was time for class. He went into his room and put his head on the table. "What's wrong?" Mrs. Harris asked. "Aren't you excited about the show?" "How could I?" Theodore started. He turned towards Miss Harris, and there she stood, in front of his drums. They had been fixed. They were perfect. "What happened?" Theodore asked. He didn't understand. When he left yesterday, the art project was destroyed. Now it was even better than before. "Ask your brother," Mrs. Harrison said. "I'm sorry I broke your drums," Alvin said. "I'm sorry you were upset," said Simon. "But we fixed them," Alvin said. Theodore smiled. That night, Alvin, Simon, and Theodore went to the art show. Dave was there too. "The drums are amazing," Dave said. "You're a great artist." "Actually, we're all great artists," Theodore said. "I couldn't have done it without my brothers." After the show, the boys went out for ice cream to celebrate, and Theodore wore his first place ribbon. The end.